Everyone talks about leaving California. Nobody talks about the places in California that will pay you to stay. This is the list of 11 towns across the Golden State offering straight-up cash, free land, forgivable loans, and rent so low your friends in Texas will get jealous. All active or launching in 2026. And a couple of these genuinely feel like they shouldn't be legal. A lottery that hands out $150,000 per winner. A county writing $210,000 checks for your down payment. A town with fewer people than your group chat, selling homes for the price of a Honda Civic. If you watch this whole thing without subscribing, you're legally not allowed to complain about rent ever again. I don't make the rules. Number 11, Sacramento. And before you roll your eyes and say you already know about Sacramento, I promise you don't know about this. The city runs a program through the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency called CalHome. And what CalHome does is hand first-time buyers up to $40,000 for their down payment. That money comes as a deferred loan, which means no monthly payments. You don't pay a dime until you sell the home, refinance, or transfer the title. For a typical buyer, that could be 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and Sacramento isn't doing this alone. The California Department of Housing and Community Development pumped $181 million into CalHome grants in December of 2025. That money flowed into 74 different projects across 22 counties, funding over 1,000 households. Sacramento just happens to be one of the best organized local administrators, meaning the application process is cleaner and the money moves faster. Now the catch. It's lottery-based. You apply through SHRA, you cross your fingers, and you wait. But $40,000 in a city where the median home price sits around $450,000? That covers nearly 9% of the purchase price before you even touch your savings account. And Sacramento itself is massively underrated. The downtown grid along the Sacramento River is lined with Victorian homes that would cost triple in San Francisco. The farm-to-fork food scene is nationally recognized, anchored by restaurants like The Kitchen and Mulvaney's that pull directly from Central Valley farms. You're 2 hours from both San Francisco and Lake Tahoe, meaning beach weekends and ski trips are both on the table. The Golden One Center hosts NBA games downtown. Midtown is walkable, bikeable, and packed with craft breweries and coffee shops. The biggest misconception about Sacramento is that it's boring. It's actually just affordable, which in California is so unusual that people mistake it for a personality flaw. Number 10, Santa Ana. This is one of the most overlooked programs in all of Southern California, and that's partly because Santa Ana doesn't exactly scream affordable housing destination. Orange County is home to Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, and some of the priciest zip codes on the West Coast. But Santa Ana itself has always been the working-class backbone of the county, and the city government knows it. Santa Ana offers a zero-interest down payment assistance loan of up to $40,000. Zero interest, no monthly payments. The loan just sits there silent until you sell or refinance. It functions almost like a grant for anyone who plans to stay long-term, because if you're living in that home for the next 20 years, you're essentially sitting on free money the entire time. Santa Ana is dense, walkable, and culturally rich. The downtown district along 4th Street is packed with murals, taquerias, and art galleries that spill out onto the sidewalk on weekend nights. The Bowers Museum is one of the best mid-size art museums in the state. You're 15 minutes from Disneyland, 20 minutes from the beach, and surrounded by cities where homes start at $1 million. The median home price in Santa Ana hovers around $650,000, which is expensive by national standards, but shockingly reasonable for a city surrounded by million-dollar beach towns. Knock $40,000 off the top with this program, and you're looking at a real entry point into coastal Orange County living. The only downside? Almost nobody knows this program exists. The city doesn't exactly run Super Bowl ads for it. You have to go looking. And now you don't have to, because you just watched this video. Number 9, San Diego. San Diego is one of those cities people assume is completely out of reach, and for a lot of buyers it is. Median home prices push past $800,000. Rent for a one-bedroom downtown can clear $2,500 a month. But the San Diego Housing Commission has a program that transplants almost never hear about. It combines a $40,000 deferred payment loan with a $10,000 closing cost grant. That's $50,000 total. The loan portion has no monthly payments and sits quietly on the title until you sell or refinance. The $10,000 grant portion, that's yours. Outright. You don't pay that back. Ever. Eligibility is designed for middle-income buyers, specifically households earning between 80% and 150% of the area median income. In San Diego, that translates to roughly $75,000 to about $190,000 a year for a family of 4. So this isn't just for people scraping by. If you're a teacher, a nurse, a mid-career tech worker, or a dual-income household pulling in a combined $120,000, you probably qualify. San Diego's appeal is almost unfair to describe. 70-degree weather in January while the rest of the country is scraping ice off windshields. The Pacific Ocean on one side, mountains on the other. Balboa Park spreads across 1,200 acres in the middle of the city, like someone dropped Central Park into paradise and added palm trees. The craft beer scene rivals Portland. The taco culture puts every other American city to shame. And the biotech corridor stretching through Torrey Pines has turned San Diego into one of the fastest-growing job markets on the West Coast. And unlike a lot of California cities, San Diego's neighborhoods actually feel distinct from each other. North Park is the hipster coffee district. Little Italy is a food destination in its own right. Pacific Beach is for people who want to surf before work. Hillcrest is vibrant and walkable. Each one has its own personality, its own price range, and its own set of listings that could benefit from a $50,000 head start. The fact that the Housing Commission is handing out $50,000 packages to help people actually live there is the kind of detail that changes someone's 5-year plan overnight. Number 8. Orange County. This is different from the Santa Ana City program we already covered. This one is bigger, covers a wider area, and the dollar amount is double. The Orange County MAPI provides a silent second mortgage of up to $80,000. No monthly payments, no interest accruing, no surprises. It just sits behind your primary mortgage like a silent partner who never asks for anything. You repay it when you sell, refinance, or pay off your first mortgage. $80,000 in Orange County is significant. The median home price across the county floats around $1 million, give or take, depending on whether you're in Irvine or Stanton. But $80,000 off the top of a $700,000 condo in Anaheim or a starter home in Garden Grove? That's the difference between maybe in 3 years and let's go look at places this weekend. The program is funded through federal home and CDBG dollars funneled through the County Housing Authority. It's been around for a while, but it cycles through funding periods, so availability depends on when you apply. The best strategy is to get pre-qualified with a participating lender before the window opens, so when money drops, you're first in line. Not second, not fifth. First. And here's where it gets interesting. This stacks with state programs, meaning you could theoretically combine Orange County MAP with Cal HFA assistance and walk into a purchase with well over $100,000 in help. The Santa Ana program stacks, too. So a first-time buyer in Santa Ana could potentially layer the city's $40,000 on top of the county's $80,000 on top of a Cal HFA loan. That's not a typo. That's just how the math works when you know where to look and you're willing to do the paperwork. Number 7. Susanville. This is where California stops looking like California and starts looking like Wyoming. High desert, pine forests, cold winters, and a population of about 16,000 people who genuinely enjoy the quiet. Susanville doesn't have a formal cash incentive program. What it has is rent so cheap it sounds like a clerical error. One-bedroom apartments in Susanville have been listed for under $700 a month. Some listings dip below $500. In a state where the average one-bedroom rent is over $2,000, Susanville is operating on a completely different pricing planet. The town's economy was long anchored by 2 state prisons, one of which closed in 2023 as part of California's broader prison downsizing. That closure ripped about 1,000 jobs out of a town that couldn't afford to lose them. The ripple effects hit local restaurants, the hardware store, the barber shops, everything that depended on corrections officers spending their paychecks locally. Some residents packed up and left, which is part of why housing costs are so low. Supply went up, demand went down, and the rental market cratered in a way that benefits anyone brave enough to move in. The people who stayed are resilient, independent, and deeply attached to the landscape. Susanville sits on the Susan River at the edge of the Sierra Nevada, surrounded by Lassen National Forest. Eagle Lake, one of the best trout fisheries in the state, is 20 minutes north. Fishing, hiking, and hunting are not hobbies here. They're the default lifestyle. There's also a quiet beauty to Susanville that photos don't fully capture. The sunsets over the high desert paint the sky in reds and purples you don't get at lower elevations. Winter brings snow-capped mountains in every direction. Spring turns the river valley green in a way that feels almost startling after the brown of winter. If you work remotely, Susanville is the kind of place where your Bay Area salary meets small-town expenses, and the math suddenly feels like a cheat code. You could rent a 2-bedroom apartment for what some people in Los Angeles pay for a parking spot. The trade-off is isolation. The nearest major city is Reno, about 80 miles west. Groceries require planning. Healthcare options are limited, and the nightlife scene is generously a couple of bars and a bowling alley. But for the right person, that's not a trade-off. That's the whole point. Number 6. Darwin. Darwin sits in Inyo County, about a half-hour drive from the western edge of Death Valley National Park. It was a mining boomtown in the late 1800s, pulling gold and silver out of the desert hills when California was still wild. Prospectors flooded in, built homes, opened businesses, and dug mines into the mountainside. Then the minerals ran out. The money left. The people followed. And over the next century, Darwin shrank from a bustling frontier town to a barely there cluster of homes baking in the desert sun. What remains today is a post office, a few dozen structures, and a community of aging desert lovers whose median age is 66. The postmaster doesn't even live in town anymore. There is no formal relocation incentive here. No government grant, no city council writing checks. What Darwin offers instead is something California almost never has. Homes for under $100,000, in some listings well under. A 2-bedroom in the Darwin zip code has been listed around $95,000. Compare that to the statewide median of $914,000, and you're looking at roughly a tenth of the going rate. The residents of Darwin have been openly vocal about wanting newcomers. The town's aging water system needs younger residents to help maintain it. The community relies on a fragile infrastructure that one bad year could collapse. There's a real quiet desperation underneath the rugged independence. Darwin wants people. Specifically, it wants people who are handy, self-sufficient, and comfortable with a town where the nearest grocery store is a 45-minute drive through the desert floor, past Joshua trees and abandoned mine shafts. The landscape is brutal and gorgeous. Death Valley sits to the east. The Sierra Nevada rises to the west, and the night sky out here is so dark and clear that the Milky Way looks like someone spilled paint across the ceiling. If you've ever fantasized about buying cheap land in the California desert, living off-grid, and building something from scratch near one of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth, Darwin is that fantasy made real. Just bring your own water plan, and maybe a generator, and definitely a sense of humor about being 45 minutes from a salad. Number 5, paradise. On November 8, 2018, the campfire tore through the town of Paradise in Butte County and destroyed almost everything. 85 people died. Roughly 90% of the structures in town were reduced to ash. The fire moved so fast that residents were trapped on evacuation routes, surrounded by walls of flame on both sides of the road. The population dropped from around 26,000 to almost nothing overnight. People scattered across Northern California, moving in with relatives, sleeping in shelters, sleeping in cars, trying to figure out how you rebuild a life when the whole town is gone. But Paradise is rebuilding. Slowly. Stubbornly. Defiantly. As of 2025, the population had climbed back to roughly 10,000. Over 2,800 homes have been reconstructed from the ground up. More than 3,300 building permits have been issued. The town is not what it was. It probably never will be. But it's becoming something new, and California is pouring serious money into making that happen. The State Department of Housing and Community Development has invested around $140 million into affordable rental housing in Paradise, plus another $200 million into infrastructure like roads, water systems, and broadband. The Rebuild Paradise Foundation offers grants for defensible space landscaping, septic systems, and what they call missing middle housing, with individual grants ranging from $500 to $7,500. State and federal disaster recovery loans can reach $150,000 to $200,000, with some forgivable over time. The median home price in Paradise, depending on the source, ranges from about $290,000 on the low end to $430,000 on the higher end. For Butte County, that's reasonable. For California, it's a bargain, and the rebuilding incentives are stacked in a way that makes it possible for people with moderate incomes to put down roots in a town that is literally starting over from the dirt up. There's one major complication, and it's important to mention: insurance. Some homeowners in Paradise have finished building brand new, fire-resistant homes only to be dropped by their insurance companies. California's wildfire insurance crisis is real, and it hits rebuilt communities hardest. So if you're considering Paradise, factor that in. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's a detail that deserves serious attention before you sign anything. The people rebuilding Paradise aren't naive. They know the risks. They're building fire-resistant materials, creating defensible space buffers, and investing in community alert systems that didn't exist before 2018. They're choosing this town knowing what happened and betting on what it can become. If you're finding this list useful, just tap that subscribe button. We cover places like this every single week, and the next entry is where the numbers start getting genuinely ridiculous. Number 4. Los Angeles. The city that has become synonymous with unaffordable housing is quietly running one of the most generous buyer assistance programs in the state. The Low-Income Purchase Assistance Program, known as LIPA, offers a deferred second mortgage of up to $161,000 for qualifying low-income buyers in the city of Los Angeles. There's also a moderate-income version called MIPA that provides between $90,000 and $115,000. Between the two programs, the income range covers a surprisingly wide band of Angelenos. These are not small numbers. $161,000 in down payment assistance, combined with even a modest Cal HFA loan, could put a first-time buyer into a condo in Highland Park, a townhome in Sylmar, a fixer-upper in South LA, or a unit in one of the newer, mixed-use developments popping up along the Expo line. The money sits as a silent second mortgage with no monthly payments. You pay it back when you sell, refinance, or pay off the first mortgage. The challenge in Los Angeles isn't the program itself, it's the competition. LA is the second largest city in America with a housing deficit that stretches into the hundreds of thousands of units. Every affordable housing program here is oversubscribed the moment it opens. Timing matters, preparation matters. Having a pre-approval letter ready before the application window opens is not optional, it's survival. The people who land these funds treat the process like a part-time job, and you should too. But if you can navigate the system, Los Angeles is still Los Angeles. The taco trucks on every corner in Boyle Heights, the golden light hitting Griffith Observatory at sunset, the career opportunities that don't exist anywhere else in the same concentration, the sprawling coastline stretching from Malibu to Long Beach. Venice Beach Boardwalk, the Getty Center perched up on its hill, free to enter, overlooking the entire basin. And with $161,000 in city-backed assistance, the monthly mortgage on a $500,000 property drops from impossible to genuinely manageable. The city doesn't advertise this program on billboards along the 405. You have to know it exists. Now you know. Number 3. Placer County. This is one of the fastest growing counties in Northern California, and the first-time homebuyer program here is built to match. Placer County offers up to $100,000 in down payment assistance through a deferred, low-interest loan. Updated guidelines were approved as recently as May of 2025, and the income ceiling is remarkably generous. You can earn up to 150% of the area median income and still qualify. For a family of 4, that works out to roughly $181,000 a year. That's not low income. That's solidly middle class. That's a registered nurse married to an electrician. That's 2 teachers with 5 years of experience. That's the people who normally get told you make too much to qualify by every other program in the state. But the real kicker in Placer County is geography. Large portions of the county qualify as USDA rural development zones, which means eligible buyers can stack Placer County's $100,000 assistance with a USDA zero-down mortgage. Zero down, $100,000 in assistance. In a county that includes Roseville, Rockland, Auburn, Lincoln, and parts of the Lake Tahoe Basin. Roseville alone has been ranked among the best places to live in California multiple times. It has top-rated schools, new construction neighborhoods, a Costco, a Topgolf, and a downtown square that fills up with farmers market vendors every Saturday morning. The median home price sits around $550,000, which is expensive by national standards but positively cheap compared to the Bay Area, where a similar house would run you double or more. $100,000 in assistance on a $550,000 home means you could potentially walk in with little to no money, out of pocket. That's not an exaggeration, that's the math. And in a county that's growing this fast, with new employers moving in and infrastructure expanding every year, the appreciation potential alone could turn that home into one of the best financial decisions you ever make. Number 2, Alameda County. They have a program called AC Boost that might be the best kept secret in Bay Area housing. AC Boost provides a shared appreciation down payment assistance loan of up to $210,000. Interest-free, no monthly payments. Funded by Measure A1, which Alameda County voters approved specifically to help middle-income residents stay in the communities where they work and raise their families. $210,000 is not a grant. It's a loan. You pay it back when you sell, along with a proportional share of the home's appreciation. But while you live there, that money costs you nothing month to month. And the program is deliberately designed for the people who get squeezed hardest in the Bay Area, specifically households earning up to 120% of the area median income. You need to live in, work in, or have been displaced from Alameda County to qualify. And you have to contribute at least 3% of your own funds. Here's the detail that educators and first responders need to hear. A C-Boost gives doubled access to teachers, public school employees, licensed childcare providers, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics. If you teach second grade in Oakland and thought you'd never own a home in the county where you work, this program was literally built with you in mind. If you're a paramedic in Berkeley pulling people out of car accidents and then driving an hour home because you can't afford to live where you save lives, a C-Boost exists because of you. The application runs in periodic windows, so timing matters. The last publicly announced window closed in May of 2024, which means a new round could open anytime. Getting pre-approved and keeping an eye on the Alameda County Housing Authority announcements is the move. Set an alert. Check monthly. This is not a program you want to find out about 2 weeks after the window closed. $210,000 in one of the most expensive counties in America. That's not just an incentive. That's a lifeline. Number 1. San Francisco. Yes, San Francisco. The city that charges $19 for avocado toast and has a median home price that makes grown adults weep into their overpriced lattes. San Francisco will hand you up to $500,000 to buy a home. The Down Payment Assistance Loan Program, known as DALP, provides shared equity assistance of up to $500,000 for first-time buyers in San Francisco. No monthly payments on the assistance. It's a silent second that sits behind your primary mortgage and gets settled when you eventually sell. There's also a version specifically for first responders called the First Responders DALP, which offers the same $500,000 ceiling to police officers, firefighters, and EMS workers buying a market rate home in the city. $500,000. Let that number breathe for a second. In most American cities, that is the entire house. In Indianapolis, that buys you a 4-bedroom with a yard and a 2-car garage. In San Francisco, it's the down payment assistance. In Cleveland, that's a mansion. In Boise, that's 2 houses. In San Francisco, it's the government's way of saying, please, for the love of everything, don't leave. We need you. And that tells you everything you need to know about the San Francisco housing market and about how far this city is willing to go to keep the people who actually run it from abandoning it for the suburbs. The median home price in the city pushes past $1.4 million, so $500,000 in help still leaves you financing a very large mortgage. But it also means that a firefighter or a nurse or a teacher who earns a decent salary can actually genuinely, realistically buy a home in the city they serve. That was not possible 5 years ago without this program. And it's still barely possible even with it, which says something about how broken the market has become. The DALP runs in limited application windows. The first responder version had its last window open from March through June of 2025. Competition is fierce and the money doesn't last. But for qualified buyers who hit the timing right, there is no larger municipal down payment assistance program anywhere in the United States. None. Zero. San Francisco holds the national record, $500,000, from a city that everyone and their landlord has already written off as unlivable for the middle class. And that brings the list to a close. 11 towns, 11 programs, from a $40,000 silent loan in Sacramento to a $500,000 check in San Francisco. From a ghost town near Death Valley with 30 residents and homes under $100,000 to a fire-scarred mountain town rebuilding itself from nothing with disaster grants and forgivable loans. If this video helped you discover a program you didn't know about, hit that like button. And if you want to see us break down the best affordable towns in every state, subscribe right now. We do this every week, and honestly, you don't want to miss what's coming next.